In our previous video, we got our form up and working. Now that we have the information coming from our form, we can do stuff with it on the back end. What we want to do next is display some feedback to the user. To do that, we are going to import a function from Flask called Flash. Sometimes we want to display a non-permanent message to the user, something that only stays on screen until we refresh the page or go to a different one. These are called flashed messages in Flask. We want to display a flashed message when our visitor submits the contact form. To use flashed messages, we need to create a secret key because Flask cryptographically signs all of the messages for security purposes. This might sound complicated, but really, all we need to do is provide a secret key that Flask can use to sign the messages. Generally, in production mode, we would keep the secret key private, so let's take a look at how to do that. First, I need a new terminal opened. I can actually stop the server for our live page by typing Ctrl+C, but I'd like to keep that running for now. I've already got a terminal open here, but I'd like to actually split the terminal in order to have the live application running on the left with the command prompt on the right. The first thing we need to do is create a new file called .gitignore. Any file or folder that we add to this will be ignored by GitHub so we don't accidentally commit files that contain sensitive data. I will type touch.gitignore. Next, we want to create a file called env.py, so let's type touch.env.py. This is where we will hide any sensitive data, or environment variables, that shouldn't be pushed to GitHub, for example. Within the env.py file, we will import the OS library from Python. We can now use the operating system method called environ, short for environment variable, as an example. We want to set a hidden variable, so let's type os.environ.setDefault. This will take two arguments. The first is our variable name that will be used to grab the confidential data, which I shall call secret_key. The second is the key itself, whether it's an API key, for example, or confidential database information, which we'll see later. We need to separate these with a comma, and for now, I will assign my secret key with the value of secret_flash_key. You can make the secret key anything you'd like, as long as it's hidden and is a string. That's all we need to do in this file, so save it and then close it for now. Next, we'll go to our .gitignore file. We need to tell GitHub to ignore the env.py file when we make any commits to the repository, so I will type env.py. As you can see on the left, there is a U next to most of our files, including the env.py file. Once I save the .gitignore file, the U will disappear for the env.py file. This U stands for untracked, meaning we haven't yet pushed this particular file into GitHub yet. The M next to our README just means that the file has been modified since our last commit, which came from the initial deployment of this particular repository. Now we can go back to our run.py file, and below our imports at the top, we just need to import one more library called env. But we only want to import env if the system can find an env.py file. If os.path.exists, env.py. Import env. Once we save that, a new directory called pycache is created. We don't need to bother pushing that to GitHub either, so let's go back to our .gitignore file and type __pycache __/. The / at the end identifies it as a directory, and so will therefore ignore everything within that folder as well. After saving the .gitignore file, you'll notice the U on our pycache directory will disappear as well, meaning that it will not get pushed to GitHub. It's important to note that if you accidentally push something to GitHub and try to add it to your .gitignore file after it's already been pushed, that will not work. We now want to grab the hidden variable, which we've called secret_key. To use it, after we instantiate our app, we need to write app.secret_key secret underscore key equals os.environ.get, and then the secret underscore key variable. Below, within our contact view, instead of the print statements, I'm going to call the flash function. Flash, thanks, open and close in curly brackets. We have received your message. Dot format, request.form.get, and then the name key. Once I save that, you can see a red error underneath .get. So if I hover over that, it says line too long. This is from an extension I'm using, and essentially says that lines should not be greater than 79 characters long in order to be PEP 8 compliant. You can see in the bottom of my IDE, it tells me that my cursor is currently on line 39 at the 92nd character for that line. There are a few ways to fix this line too long error for PEP 8 compliance, but the easiest is to just hit enter after any opening parenthesis symbol. That will ensure that it's at the correct tab location on the next line as well. When I save the file now, the error is gone, but it's telling me there's another red error somewhere in my file. Okay, so this one says env imported but unused. We can actually ignore this one because we are using the env.py file for the secret key. All we need to do now is update our contact template so that it can retrieve the flashed messages. To do that, we are simply going to create a with block, similar to if-else statements or for loops. Above the form, just inside of the first column, I will type curly bracket percentage with messages equals get underscore flashed underscore messages, opening and closing brackets, percentage sign, closing curly brackets. Get flashed messages will return any of the messages that we've created using the flash function on the backend and store that in a variable called messages. We need to close our end with as well. Next, we are going to check if there are any messages to retrieve. If messages. Let's also just close our endif here as well. If we have successfully returned any messages from our getFlashedMessages function, then we are going to create some HTML. I want to display each message within an unordered list, so I can build that using ul.flashes, which will assign a class name of flashes that we can style later if we wanted to. Inside of our UL, we want to iterate through each of the messages because it's possible for us to receive more than one from the backend on a single page. For message in messages. Don't forget to close that for loop using end_for. Finally, for each message, we will insert a line item, li, double curly brackets, our message variable, closing curly brackets, closing li. When we reload our live preview and resubmit the form, you can see here now our flash message is displayed as a bullet point list item. Thanks, Tim Nelson. We have received your message. Just to demonstrate this once more, I will fill out the form as somebody else. So today, I'll be John Doe. It takes the name key from our form, then, using the .format method, it injects that name into this particular flash message. You'll probably want to provide more styling to the flashes class that we created to make it look a lot nicer. That was the basics of how to get flashed messages working with Flask. In this section, we've seen how to do advanced routing in Flask, how to create a form, and how to retrieve that information and do something with it on the back end. Our project is almost complete. The only thing left to do is to deploy it so that it can be seen on the internet. We will do that in our next series of videos.